Hi, I'm Mora, and today I'm going to be responding to Mark's claim of fact speech, where he made the claim that the lottery has an overall negative impact on society. And he supported this with three supporting claims. First was that the lottery fails to help the economy. Second was that the lottery acts as a tax on low-income households. And third is that the winners of the lottery often suffer a negative impact. So in regards to his first supporting claim, that the lottery fails to help the economy, Mark mentions that only 25% of the lottery profit goes to the state, but he fails to explain what this really means. So if we apply that statistic to the last fiscal year's data, the California State Lottery reported that for the 2015-2016 year, they earned a record-breaking $6 billion in lottery sales. So 25% of $6 billion is $1.5 billion. So that's $1.5 billion that went directly to state schools. And that's on top of the funding they receive locally and from state each year. And he also states that it's better to buy goods and services directly than it is to buy a lottery ticket, because buying from goods and services will benefit the business directly. But I have a counterclaim to this, and that's that buying a lottery ticket either alone or in addition to basic goods and services actually has more benefit. In fact, retailers can earn more profit off of a lottery ticket than they can off of most basic goods and services. The National Association of Convenience Stores found that a candy bar profit is $6 per square foot, whereas a lottery ticket is $28.56 per square foot. So that's almost 5 times more profit from a lottery ticket. So imagine buying a lottery ticket either alone or in addition to a candy bar. That's already more in profit than just buying the basic good alone. And so based on the data I've shared, we see that, if anything, the lottery actually helps the state and businesses get more money on top of what they receive through traditional methods. Now, his second supporting claim states that the lottery acts as a tax on lower income households, and this is actually false. The lottery is not a tax. Rather, the inflated price of the ticket is a tax. So Georgia State's Professor Ross Rubenstein studied this extensively, and to summarize, he found that people make the choice to buy a lottery ticket, and with that choice comes the inflated price of the ticket, which is the tax, basically. So the tax is embedded in the price of the ticket. So like Mark mentioned, lower income households do tend to play the lottery more, so their so-called lottery tax will appear higher than those in other tax brackets because they're buying more tickets, and then those tickets have the tax in them. So to reiterate, the lottery is not a tax, and there's no such thing as a lottery tax. And his third and final supporting claim is that most winners suffer a negative impact as a result of winning. The statistic he uses to support this claim is that, quote, 70% of lottery winners end up broke, mostly within 3 to 5 years. Now, it was very hard to find a study whose exact findings matched the statistic, and from my findings, I discovered that no study actually exists. So, in regards to the 70% part of the statistic, the National Endowment for Financial Education, or NEFE, was cited as the source in one of the articles that Mark used as his source. Now, the NEFE did put out a pamphlet on financial windfall and encountering large sums of money, but its findings do not match the statistic. One line in the pamphlet states that it is estimated that people who encounter large sums of money lose it within a few years. Now, there are 3 things wrong with this source. First is that no study is actually cited for this estimation, so we don't know where that 70% figure comes from, and that's a problem. The second issue is that this pamphlet is not only about the lottery exclusively. It talks about other ways of encountering large sums of money, like divorce, retirement, successful business ventures, and things like that. And third is that there is no mention of a specific time frame of 3 to 5 years. All they say is a few years, and it's hard to know what constitutes as a few years, so that is also a problem. Now, a supposed study by the Camelot Group, which is a group in Britain that does independent studies, they did mention a time frame of 5 years, and a few online news groups did cite the Camelot Group study as their source for the figure of 5 years. But it turns out that, according to Fortune.com, they made an edit to one of their articles and said that it turns out that no such study was ever conducted, so a time frame of 3 to 5 years was never actually backed up by any data. So there is actually no data to support the statistic that 70% of winners go broke within 3 to 5 years. So in conclusion, a failure to explain and apply statistics in addition to errors in evidence and data significantly weakened Mark's claim of fact. Thank you.
Right, all the structural stuff is sound. On the first point, when you talk about the economic impact, $1.5 million for the schools in California, that sounds like it's pretty good. I don't know that the advocate suggested that there was any other lack of benefits. I don't remember if they had any statistical comparison, and I think that's one of the things that you want to emphasize. This is, well, I can quantify how much California got, and that that money got spent on schools doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe a couple of details on where the lottery money went would add to that. On the second point, the second piece of evidence that you have there is so interesting to me, but I have no idea how they figure it out. $6 per square foot of candy bar versus $28 per square foot of lottery tickets. Yeah, I'm just going, huh? And my guess is that it's got to do with the retail space that the vendors are using, that the convenience store is using, and in essence, the return that they get on their product based on the amount of space that they have to devote to those sorts of things. It's still a little weird, but however, the statistic was kind of impressive. That you get 6 times return on that. So I thought that was worth including. I would like a little bit more explanation of it because it's a little freaky. Now, the tax issue, I think, is a little bit circular here. The argument isn't that it is a tax, it's that it functions as a additional burden on low-income people, which is the equivalent of a tax. I understand, you're kind of splitting some hairs here on the language to try and give a response to this. I think the better argument is to simply say, it's a voluntary contribution that people are making. A tax is something that is imposed against somebody's will, and it's enforced by the use of force. Lottery tickets, nobody's obligated to buy them. It's a complete choice on their part, and the idea that it's an imposition is a matter of perspective here. And probably have to leave it at that, because that's the main difference that's going on there. The third point, I thought that, you went after this. I appreciated the fact that you tried to track down the statistic. You couldn't find a source for the statistic. You found some of the information that the advocate used, and that suggests that it was highly ambiguous to begin with. You have specific criticisms of the quote, there's no study that's cited, there's no what is it? There's no time frame that's presented. There's no information about the lotteries that they're talking about. I thought that those were good challenges on this particular point. And then you kind of also talk about, and the supposed Camelot group that also is kind of a secondary source for this. Turns out that never happened. Nobody could ever find this sort of thing. I think those are good presses on that. I don't know how important that argument is, but I think you went after it pretty well. So, that's a good choice. And I think you speak very effectively when you're presenting also. All right. Mm-hmm. How's our time? Oh. We will continue on Monday.